Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel and blog. So for today's card, I am playing catch up with this week's Color Throwdown Challenge, which went live on Wednesday. And honestly, I struggled with. I had other things going on as well, but this color combo, I was just kind of stuck. I'm more in a, spring and Valentine mood. And this week's challenge was brown, black, and white. And I thought up a bunch of different ideas in my head and I was like, oh, I could do this, and nothing was really like working for me. And then I decided I would still make a Valentine card, but with these colors. So once I started with that idea, I started going further, and a lot of you have been requesting I do more videos with the Simon Says Stamp picture book characters. So I pulled out the picture book Labrador. So this is one of the, kind of more original ones with a smaller one. And I die cut it from some brown cardstock. And then I pulled out my scrap paper here and I am sponging on some Simon Says Stamp dark chocolate dye ink onto his ears. And then this little main part of his body just to kind of darken up the cardstock just a little bit. And then I also used the ink on just the kind of upper and lower portions of the little face die cut, as well as the center part of his body. I'm just using the smallest of the Picket Fence life-changing blender brushes that I showed in the last video I used picture book characters. I used this little brush to add the blush to their cheeks with the big characters. So this worked with these little tiny pieces. I still got ink all over me because that's just par for the course, but it's fine. So I did all that blending. Then I grabbed a larger brush to do the bottom part of this die cut. I pulled out the CZ Design Dude wafer die and left it in the scrap paper just to give me something to hold. And then I just sponged the ink on the lower portion of this. Just gives that nice kind of fade look that I just love. And then I cleaned off my brushes with my microfiber cloth. That's what I always do. Clean them off. And then after I had done that, it now comes time to assemble my little picture book character. So with the smaller ones, I like to use copy paper, and I use the same piece of copy paper for everything until I've completely used it up. So I use that, as my scrap paper when stamping large stamps. I cut out pieces of it to use to assemble things like this, etc. So I just use my craft tacky glue and adhere all the pieces onto the copy paper. And I like copy paper over full-on cardstock because it's easier to cut through and thinner. And it enables me to undercut that paper so that you don't see it, because you don't want those white edges to show. So I also make sure not to apply the glue to the very outer edges of all these die cuts either, because that again just makes things a little bit simpler. So I adhered all the little pieces to create the body, and then I had die cut a little scrap of black cardstock for his eyes and nose, and they were still in the die, so I just flipped that over, used my little die pick to press them into place after already having the adhesive, and he's done. So now I just take my little cutter bee scissors and I kind of hold them on an angle so that I can kind of slide them underneath the very outermost edge of this little character, and then I can just cut away the paper. And really simple to do. It takes no time at all. And again, because I use copy paper, it's just simple cuts and I'm not having to put as much effort in as if it were cardstock. But again, if you use cardstock, it does make it a little more sturdy, but I don't worry about that too much because once everything's adhered, it's fine. So I did that, and then I die cut an outline from that Dude wafer die. I die cut the outline from some Desert Storm cardstock. Then I'm going to just adhere those together with that craft tacky glue. And I'd also die cut some white cardstock with the Windows to My Heart wafer dies. So I've got white and black and brown going on for this color challenge, and it's coming together. The idea in my head, I was like, okay, this is working. And then I grabbed another scrap of the Neenah Desert Storm cardstock, and I'm stamping all the sentiments I want to use at once. I'm using sentiments from two different sets. I'm using the CZ Design Simple Sentiments 2 stamp set, as well as the PUNNY Animals stamp set. And I stamp those with clear embossing ink, and then I'm going to heat emboss them with some detail white embossing powder. And after I've coated them with the embossing powder, melt that with my heat tool, funnel the powder back in the container, put the lid on so I don't knock it over. And then I die cut all those sentiments with the smallest of the sentiment label wafer dies. So I've got those all die cut. all in these long strips. And I showed this in a previous video. This is how I like to cut the ends, because I always find if I use my scissors with these to trim the ends off, it just looks crooked. I don't even know if it for sure is crooked, but it just looks crooked to me. So I like using my little Tim Holtz guillotine trimmer for this, and I just hold them with the little plastic bumper there, and then I just tap the heel of my hand on the cutter to just quickly, you know, cut these apart into the size that I want. So really quick and easy, and it just makes things more convenient. So I've got all those trimmed down. So now I need to just actually adhere my card. And I got some black and white striped pattern paper because I just thought that would kind of add to an otherwise, I don't know, I wouldn't call this card basic, but, you know, since everything is solid, like solid colors, just solid cardstock, I thought adding the black and white stripe would just give it a little extra something. So I popped the white cardstock onto the black using just Derice foam strips. And then I'm going to adhere that to the black and white pattern paper with my craft tacky glue. And then once I've got that adhered, I can add my puppy dog and the sentiment. And the whole time I was making this, I was like, this would be so much fun. You know, if you don't have kids, or you just have pets, or even if you do have kids, this would be so much fun to make a card like this for your significant other using one of the, you know, pets. And it's like a Valentine's card from the pet. It would also work for, you know, birthdays and everything else. I just got a kind of a kick out of this, and it was like, if I had a dog, this is what I would do. And now I'm like, I need to make a cat one so I can give someone a card like from the cat. I think that would be funny. So anyway, I adhered everything with craft tacky glue, and then added my sentiments with both the craft tacky glue for the small one, and then the other two I popped those up as well with those little Derice foam strips. So it says, hey dude, love you forever, and then XOXOXOXO. And then on the inside of the card, I have another sentiment from, this one's from the Love Messages stamp set, which it just has some really good sentiments in it. So I have that. I have one more heat embossed sentiment from the Simple Sentiments 2 set. And then I have another strip of this pattern paper, which I've said a million times. One, this is like my favorite pattern paper pack. And two, I save every little piece of this because right here, like little pieces come in so handy. So I just trimmed this down again with my trimmer and saved those other little pieces because I'll probably use them in a similar way on another card. So I've got that trimmed down, and then I'm going to ink up the sentiment from the Love Messages set with that dark chocolate ink. And I'm going to stamp it first. I wanted to make sure to stamp it in case I ended up, you know, messing it up and having to cover it with pattern paper or whatever. So stamp that first, and then I'm going to adhere the pattern paper and the heat embossed sentiment with the craft tacky glue. So got that all finished, and that finishes the inside of the card. And then to finish the outside of the card, I'm just going to adhere that card front to my card base, and that's it. No embellishments, no bling. Shocking, I know, but this card just, it came together. Definitely more masculine, totally Valentine worthy, yet no pink, no red, but it does have some hearts. So as always, I will have a link to my blog post. I'll have a link to the color challenge. I'll have a supply list with links to everything if you're interested. Oh, final note. I also added black glaze to the puppy dog's eyes and nose using my little black glaze pen by Jelly Roll. Again, very subtle, but it just adds that little extra something when the light catches it. That little bit of dimension, that little bit of shine. Totally finished them off. So, like I said, there will be links below the video to my blog post with links to all the supplies used, a link to the color challenge. All that info is in the description box below. Thank you guys so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping and commenting on my videos. I really appreciate it. I will see you all very soon in the next one. Bye.